So in the last 7 days, there's been some major headlines happening in the financial industry. Everything from the Federal Reserve and their press conference 2 days ago, the housing market saga, what the Biden administration just dropped on our heads, and a potential World War III. There's a lot to talk about here. So in this video, we'll be doing a recap of all these things that we've mentioned, along with answering the question, how do all these things play into the Great Reset? And yes, I do believe there are potential repercussions on how this could affect the Great Reset in 2022. Before we move on to the video, if you currently own things and you're already happy, go ahead and give this video a like before we move on. Hey, that was a good way to get people to like, right? Should I just ask them to smash like the other guy does?
No, we're fine.
Now let's go over the first thing, which is the Federal Reserve press conference that happened 2 days ago. Here's a short recap on what happened. The Fed kept rates unchanged, but sent a warning shot for the 16th of March when they meet. Again, Jerome Powell stated that the economy is no longer needing sustained high levels of monetary policy support. And on top of that, he made his intentions known to reduce the balance sheet, which currently, as of this morning, sits near $9 trillion. By the way, to give you guys an idea how much $9 trillion is, if you were to stack $100 bills, well, a $9 trillion stack of $100 bills would actually be almost as tall as the Empire State Building. Now, what's interesting is that the 10-year Treasury jumped above 1.85% after the press conference. So when the 10-year Treasury yield goes up, it means that the demand for it goes down, meaning that investors are looking for more riskier investments such as stocks or real estate, compared to the 10-year Treasury, which most notably will say is the least riskiest investment you can make because you're literally betting on the US government.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
But considering that a lot of individuals are putting money towards stocks and real estate, and well, considering that there's also been a huge sell-off in the stock market, which by the way includes even YouTubers selling their stock portfolio. So my assumption is that in 2022, a lot of individuals are probably going to put their money towards something like real estate, along with other investments that are going to hedge very well against inflation. Which leads us to ask the question, will all this new potential capital entering the real estate market explode the housing market more than it's already been exploded? I mean, is the housing market going to start looking like a Michael Bay movie?
Michael Bay presents Explosions!
Well, considering the potential influx of more capital, along with the fact that Wall Street has actually been accelerating the amount of purchases they're making in the housing market, this makes the future of the housing market so much more unclear. As a matter of fact, according to CoreLogic, there are cities like Atlanta and San Jose in which investor purchases make up as high as 40% of all the homes bought. And in looking at the country as a whole, homes being bought by investors accounted for 27% of all home purchases. And yes, that is relatively higher, as home purchases made by investors have actually doubled since pre-pandemic levels. Now, with that said, this obviously makes it much more difficult for millennials to enter the housing market for the first time. And well, that will domino into the fact that rents will probably increase even more than what we've already thought in 2022 and maybe even in 2023. Now, speaking of millennials, another major headline that hit the news in the last 7 days is Biden paying off $15 billion worth of student loan debt. Now, obviously, this has been in the works for some time now, but according to an article that was just released a couple days ago by Forbes, yes, President Joe Biden has canceled $15 billion worth of student loan debt. And apparently, that's more than any other president, which, by the way, if you give it even half a thought, isn't really saying much considering that student loans hasn't really become that much of an issue since, well, this guy was in office. And there's only been like one other president since him. I mean, that's kind of like saying, well, as you can see, I was top of my class in both middle school and high school. Oh, awesome. How large was your class size? Oh, I was homeschooled. But to say that Obama caused the current student loan bubble is not a politically biased statement at all, because in all fairness, Bush triggered the domino effect that would eventually cause the housing market to crash in 2008 by really pushing more Americans to be homeowners and disrupting the free market principles.
They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
Now, in going back to Biden paying off the student loans, a lot of people are making the argument saying that, hey, this is a great thing that the Biden administration paid off $15 billion worth of student loans because it's going to increase consumer confidence and consumer spending, especially amongst the Americans that got hit the hardest, which is my generation, the millennials. But the harsh reality is that yes, while $15 billion was paid off, well, the current student loan bubble as of Q4 of 2021 is
That's a lot of money.
I mean, imagine if a friend that owed you $157 knocked on your door one day, handed you $1.50, and started walking around the street acting like he had just killed Osama bin Laden, and then wrote a book. and then started a podcast, and then did a bunch of other stuff. So in my opinion, while it may be a step in the right direction, it really doesn't change much with the current standpoint of this giant student loan bubble that we have, or anything with the Great Reset. Because remember guys, the paying off of debt and personal debt is going to be a mass sell for a lot of individuals to be part of the Great Reset. Now with that said, this next thing that we're about to talk about could potentially be a game changer and could throw a wrench in everything that we just mentioned, which is the US involvement with Russia and Ukraine. Now, is this going to cause World War III? Well, I truly do not know. But if there is US involvement and war does get initiated, here's what I do know. Major wars are generally inflationary in a major way, and considering that we're already in a high inflation market, well, this could potentially destroy our domestic economy. And according to history, supply shortages and cost of goods will most likely get worse than they already are. Also, monetary policy will most likely ease, meaning that all the mumbo jumbo that Chairman Jerome Powell said a couple of days ago with, increasing interest rates, discontinuing asset purchases, and also tightening monetary policy to cool down the economy, well, all that is pretty much just thrown out the window. Now, this is where it leads to talking about how it all ties into the Great Reset, because I'm sure many of you watching this video are asking that question, and well, here it is. Political leaders who desire for more power, control, and reach have historically thrived off of chaos because, well, they use that chaos to evoke fear and create situations that will grant them more power. And amongst hundreds of examples throughout history, the most notable may be how Hitler got into power. As a matter of fact, here's a short excerpt from the National World War II Museum. By 1932, the Nazis were the largest political party in Reichstag. In January of the following year, with no leader able to command sufficient support to govern, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler Chancellor of Germany. Shortly after, a fire broke out in the Reichstag building in Berlin, and authorities arrested a young Dutch communist who confessed to starting it. Hitler used this episode to convince President Hindenburg to declare an emergency decree suspending many civil liberties before Germany, including freedom of the press, freedom of expression, and the right to hold public assemblies. First and foremost, I wonder who started that fire. And better yet, I wonder who paid him to do that.
Heil me, man.
Heil Hitler.
What?
So let's think about this for a second. How much more chaotic can you get with the domestic economy being destroyed by inflation, a major war going on between two major superpowers in the world, potentially even three, because, well, we haven't even mentioned China in this whole conversation, along with many other economical and political issues happening internationally. And in the midst of all the chaos, perhaps another German man will rise and propose a new world order, a world in which we will own nothing and we will be happy. Now, will all of this happen? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, I'm just a YouTuber that loves sharing thoughts and facts about things that I too find interesting. Now, with that said, guys, if you're wanting to watch more content on the Great Reset, what it is and what's happening right now that could potentially bring it on, check out some of these videos. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. If you're feeling extra generous, give this video a like. And also let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as I would love to hear all your thoughts on what's happening. So with that said, guys, I'll see you in the next one.